I think that's live now,
Cool.
and I hope that
Let's wait to see if it starts coming through, because this is
we've just
why
been
new
talking.
YouTube is vast and homosexual.
Yeah.
Remember when streaming was, you started streaming, and then, you know,
it's working.
It did it? Okay, so now I need to do that introduction again.
Alright. So, after us talking for like, 10 minutes and realizing that it wasn't actually working.
Something like that.
Hello. I'm Coolcross. I will be your temporary archaeologist for the moment. Hopefully in future we'll have more archaeologists. With me are a number of friendos. And
Archaeology. Yes.
Right. So, to start out, below is a link for Ash's Streamlabs, who will be with us shortly, to help her out with her doggos when she comes to visit her fiance Skog. Say hi, Skog.
Hi, Skog.
So yeah, I figured, seems Skog and Ash have been helping me out, that I'll help them out by including their Streamlabs below. So, today, I wasn't sure what to talk about, so I decided let's start in the beginning. And in the beginning, in relation to Irish archaeology, we could talk about Stone Age stuff, or we could talk about historical stuff, and I couldn't really decide, so I decided let's start with the mythological. And from that, we'll move into the actual archaeology and hard facts kind of stuff. So, the mythology of Ireland begins with, with our mythological cycles, our cycles of literature. I'm having difficulty pronouncing that word, but you know what I'm trying to say. So we have the mythology cycle, followed by the Ulster cycle, then the Fenian cycle, and the cycle of the kings. So we're going to discuss today a little bit about the mythological cycle, which is coincidentally one of the inspirations for Tolkien's Lord of the Rings. So there might be a lot of motifs in this that you will recognize, such as like the elves and whatnot.
Bro, when does Cuchulainn come into it?
Cuchulainn actually comes in the Ulster cycle. The Ulster cycle is primarily about the Cuchulainn stories.
So that's spoilers then.
Spoilers. And Fenian cycle, as the name would suggest, would be Finn McCool and the Fina. And then Kings is a bit more recent. It'll be more branching from mythology into actual history itself. So to kick us off, we have I have a little bit of a piece I've pre-written and stolen from a previous essay, as we did last time, to help us give us something to talk about. So the earliest writing of the mythological cycle is based in Old Irish and is approximately dates sometime between 700 and 950 AD. Most of the documents come from the Book of Invasions, or as it's known in, as its original name is Lawer Goála Éireann, the Book of Invasions or Invaders, and it's dated to around 700 AD, so it's like early medieval. Yeah, early medieval.
Are the Irish just dwarves?
Because
it sounds like you have a book of grudges.
Oh yes.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah, is that's what is it, D&D or is it Pathfinder?
That's just
Dwarves
fiction. Yeah.
Okay, but
I still can't see your stream.
You can't see it?
No, I'll go back. So I was on your YouTube. Oh, okay, you're live, but you're not in my sub box. Thanks, YouTube. Very cool.
Yeah.
Remember, folks, to click on the bell.
Yeah.
And then keep clicking on it, because that's the only way it's gonna do anything.
Yeah. But yeah, I have the chat open here in a second window so I can see it separately. So the mythological cycle contains stories like the biblical flood, the Battle of Moytira, The first Battle of Moytura, that is, which took place somewhere, we believe, in County Mayo. The second Battle of Moytura, which took place somewhere in Sligo. The Wooing of Aideen and the Children of Lear. For today, we're just going to discuss like the Battle of Moytura.
Oh, boys.
Okay.
Them
More
children.
yeah.
I know that story.
You'll have to tell me if I'm making too many jokes, because all I can think of is that time when Nuka's chair was held up only by lager cans and he fell off it. And that's just what it sounds like. My chair! Ah!
Oof.
The noise that made.
So,
It kept going.
When,
Sorry.
When did the Scotoids leave Ireland?
Oh, when did
Is
this?
that, like, is that
Well-
late spoilers?
Oh, that would be well into like medieval period, like early medieval maybe, when we separated. But yeah, we'll get to that because that's more of the Ulster story of the Ulstermen. What is the name? Oh, I can't think of it off the top of my head. Oh,
I know you've got the
Dalriada.
Ulster Scots, or is that in the other direction?
Yeah, the Dalriada, which was a kingdom which started from Ulster and branched into Scotland, but then later on the Scottish managed to claim the title because most of the kingdom proceeded after it fell in Ireland in Scotland. Much like how, like, I don't know, the Portuguese Empire collapsed in Portugal and survived in Brazil, and then the Brazilians came and conquered Portugal. But
Weirdest
that's neither here nor
flex.
there. Yep. Where did I leave off here? So most of the manuscripts that would contain these stories would be from the Book of Invasions, the Annals of the Four Masters, which is dates from sometime around 1616, the A History of Ireland by Geoffrey Keating, which is from sometime around 1644. And so we're just going to talk briefly about some of the personalities and tribes or races mentioned in the cycle. I use the races in inverted commas. If you were choosing your D&D character, this is what I mean by the term race in this context.
I understand this because I'm a nerd.
So there's Cheshire. Is how you pronounce that? Cheshire, the granddaughter of Noah, who 40 days before the Great Flood arrived with her followers in Ireland, or on the island that would become Ireland. That is. These would have been the first inhabitants of the island. Her husband's name, Fintan, Fintan the Wise, survived the flood by turning into a salmon, and is often confused with the Salmon of Knowledge. So those are not the same salmon. So there's other things like
I'm afraid I'm going to have to stop you right there. Please tell me about the Salmon of Knowledge.
So the Salmon of Knowledge comes in later in the Fenian cycle. With Finn McCool, where he was supposed to catch this salmon for his he's like teacher, like his I was going to say master, but that's not the right word. It's like the person he's learning from.
Yeah, that's a master.
Mentor. That's the word I'm looking for. Mentor.
Bro,
So
I haven't heard this story in fucking years.
Yeah, he was asked to catch this salmon for his mentor, and his mentor then asked him to cook it up, and he noticed a blister on the salmon, so he went to poke it, and ended up gaining all the knowledge in the world. He maxed out his wisdom checks, basically.
It is Galaxy TLDR, it is Galaxy Brainfish.
God damn it, Hod. So, for those who can't see what we're looking at, Han has just linked me a picture of a what looks like a trout with a
chicken with a cigarette.
In a chicken smoking a cigarette.
I can put it on the stream if you want me to, but
I don't think you need to. I think that image is known well enough, or at least we've described it. So continue on from that brief rabbit hole. We have the Fir Bolg, which are literally translated as the men of bags, which originated from somewhere in the Mediterranean. Bolg also means belly in modern Irish, just as a random fact. So they originated as slaves in somewhere in the Mediterranean, but rose up and escaped from their oppressive Greek masters. Eventually, Greeks fucking ruining everything as usual.
Greeks invented gayness.
Eventually, they made their way to Ireland, though their bad luck, continued here, and they were kept on their feet by the Tuatha De Danann and the Fomorians, which we'll get to momentarily. And in the end, they couldn't hold out any longer and had to accept terms and retreated to Connacht, where for the rest of the cycle they make an odd appearance. Spring. A Fur-Bullock champion is credited with severing the arm of Nudu. Sorry, some of these names are in Irish, and I'm not entirely sure how to pronounce some of them, but I will give my best go. And please rant at me in the chat if I pronounce them wrong. I did not study Irish. Though being
call yourself Irish.
Anyway, moving on, we have the Tuatha De Danann, or the people of the goddess Danu. Tua is an Irish word from Old Irish that refers to like a people or clan. Like we don't have clans in Ireland. Like clans would be more of a Scottish thing. Literally like the followers or like the local group, like the Tua.
The lads.
Yeah, the crew. But well, the crew is probably a better way of describing the Fina, but that's neither here nor there. So the Tuatha De Danann, the people of the goddess Danu, are one of the few races that set out to take a portion of Ireland for themselves from the Fir-Bolg. Nadu was their king, but during the first Battle of Moichira, a champion of the Fir-Bolg, severs his arm, and since he's no longer whole, he can no longer be the king until later when he gets a silver arm med, and he can become king again. Bruh. So basically, this is a motif that appears a lot in Ireland, especially with kings. If you're not a whole, as in if you have some form of disability or like a marking, like some sort of disfigurement, you can't be the king. You have to be pure.
So you're saying Ireland is ableist?
Yes, very much so. Also, wait until we get into some of the treatment of foreigners in medieval Ireland, or pre-medieval Ireland, where if you don't have permission to be there, you were fucking having a bad day.
Bro, you just light a fire before the king? Bro.
Oof.
Shouldn't have done that, nah.
Yeah. Oh, we'll get into that kind of stuff later. But so also among the Tuatha De Danann is Lu, a champion, Lu or Luig, however you prefer to pronounce that name. I will be pronouncing it Lu, spelled L-U-G, even though it's pronounced L-U-G-H, which is just confusing, but okay. He was a champion and deity of the Celtic pantheon. Lu is kind of like a... What's Zeus's son's name? The archer? What's his name?
Artemis? Or no, that's Apollo?
Yeah, that's the Apollo, that's it. He's like a Celtic kind of Gaelic version of Apollo, who leads the Tuatha De Danann to victory in the Second Battle of Moichira. So then finally we have my scroll wheel stopped working again, so I can't scroll down. So finally we have the Fomorians. The Fomorians. These are the demigod. These are a demigod race, and I forgot. There's more actually. Hang on. So this is the second one, this penultimate one. So these are a demigod race, which are like the Greek, which like in Greek mythology precede the gods. They're like the Titans basically. So if you imagine in Greek mythology, there's the Greek gods versus the Titans. And then in Irish mythologies, there's the Tuatha De Danann versus the Fomorians. Among them is Brez, who is apparently he grew so quickly that by the age of 7, he was the size of a 14-year-old, which is a motif we are rather familiar with today with teenagers growing up so fast, thanks to the hormones in things like chicken nuggets and chicken tendies.
I thought that was some
etc.
reference to the certain groups lying about their age for certain reasons.
Oh no, not yet.
Little Ibrahim here is only 7 years old.
That's late spoilers.
Oh, and there is no, I'm gonna ignore that because I don't have an image available. But he led the Fomorians in the Second Battle of Moichir, and they were defeated. I'm getting some weird
F's in the
indicators
chat.
over here. Yep. So yeah, F's in the chat for the Fomorians, the giants who got their ass handed to them.
Oh, yes.
Apparently, we're having difficulty with the video for some reason.
Stu in the chat is static, so it should be fine. It'll be the audio that's the issue. And the
it's
audio
just probably
generally
me telling that
shows
there's a problem, but there's probably no problem.
Also, Stu in the chat asks, I should launch episode 1. Does that start at the beginning of Irish history, or is this a standalone video?
I was unsure where to start, so I decided to start with actual history itself, if you know what I mean. Just to kind of give an idea of, it sets the background for some unusual beliefs. For instance, we were discussing earlier how I visited a wedge tomb with another archaeologist and a group of students, and we were discussing as to why this area had survived intact, and a lot of the gold work was still inside the tomb.
Right.
And I noticed through a crack in the tomb was growing a large blackthorn tree. And if anyone is familiar with blackthorns, especially in Irish mythology, they are considered in tradition to be, or in the folklore, to be like a fairy fort essentially. So if this wedge tomb, which had tons of gold in it, had this massive tree growing out of it, the people who lived in the area would have been aware of it, number one, so they wouldn't have gone near it. So the stones would have been left intact, and thus they wouldn't have found any of the gold inside. And believing that there's fairies there, fairies, or in the original meaning of the word, it comes from the Irish sheed, which originally meant like ancestral spirits, but they could originate like the Tuatha Dé Danann, who later on in like the story of the mythical cycle end up turning to underground. So if they're anything, they're probably similar to like the Norse dwarves or elves.
Bro, one thing I know, you don't fuck with fairies.
Mm-hmm.
Don't fuck with fairies. That's just asking for trouble.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the gist of that was, no, this is a standalone episode.
Yeah, maybe.
The stream is stumbling. I don't know why. My internet's been faultless. Maybe it's because of the YouTube live on your end.
Maybe it has to go through mine or something.
If it is, that's fucking dumb.
Yeah. Well, if it's
very cool.
Thanks, YouTube. Very cool.
Yeah, I'm wondering if I reload my screen, will it kill everything? Will I chance it?
It should be fine. It'll just it'll just be stumbles.
I'll reload and see if it breaks.
Okay.
No, it's fine. It's fixed it. Oh, I thought there was mess in it, but yeah, that's an idea for it. But there's other things as well. Like, hang on, I have it here to hand. If I can find the page, because I have my my copy of what's it called, Prehistoric Archaeology of Ireland here. So what are they called? Well, that's actually a good point here that I forgot to mention. So, one of the early cultures to come into Ireland archaeologically is referred to as the Beaker People, and they originate somewhere in I can't remember if it's South Germany or Czech Republic-ish.
I'm guessing they're named this because they left lots of beakers behind.
Used a lot of beakers, And you know, could these people be related in some way to the? This could be the location that the real the second battle of Moichera would have taken place, and underground. So it mightn't be literal. It might be they're buried underground. In
I
like
wonder. I
tombs.
wonder, like in their
Go on.
religion back then,
Mm-hmm.
like because they were obviously like people,
Mm-hmm.
so they had their tribes. In their religion back, I wonder how much like the animals of Ireland like fit into the like druids. Like they had all those druids back then. That's kind of like Ireland's where the druids came from, right?
Yeah.
Where I'm like, yeah. And then when St. Patrick came, the whole thing of the kicking the snakes out of Ireland is a metaphor for kicking out all the druids.
Yeah, I've heard that one. That's a possibility for the story as well. One of the things about the stories is we're not to take them exactly literally, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But we can use them to, like, or to at least contextualize finding that seem out of place.
Like those the bog bodies.
Mm-hmm.
Would that be what do any of those bog bodies go back that far?
As far as I'm aware, the bog bodies will date to somewhere around or early medieval. No, I think it's mostly of them are the Iron Age. I know there's early medieval ones, but they're like accidental deaths where someone had a fall in the bog. But as the most of them from that I'm aware of is actually from Denmark, because we have similar terrain to certain parts of Denmark. But yeah, some of that stuff is kind of carried over Scandinavia. In fact, a lot of like the tomb constructions, such as like cairns, exist, and some wedge tombs actually exist in France, Spain, and Denmark, as well as Ireland and England. So, you know, there's a lot of similarities there. Yeah, the burial customs are very similar, and that's one of the things we use in archaeology to figure out of peoples and stuff. Is they have particular burial customs, the locations of burial sites in relation to their like living spaces, so like villages or farms. Even cooking places. So sometimes cooking places are kept separate from the village, because you know if you're cooking, you don't attract wild animals that might be a problem, such as bears or wolves. Yeah. So what I was before I got distracted there. What was I looking? So Lunula seem to coincide somewhat with wedge tomb. Well, I can't really show examples of that because I don't have. Yeah, I figured it'd be nicer to do this actually live where we can have audio.
You can send me pictures and I can put them up.
Oh, that's grand. We'll people can. Oh, did I disconnect? Oh,
no, boss that one too.
That's no worries. So I constantly get buffering constantly, but I'm on a phone with Wi-Fi.
I don't know if it's YouTube being difficult. Because I've got a constant buffering and I'm the host.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Han, how is it for you?
Let's see.
Yeah.
I'm red.
Yeah.
According to it.
That's why I'm wondering, is it bouncing off?
It's dropped 65% of the frames.
Bro.
Well, there's only one frame. There's only one frame to show, so.
Yeah.
Like, I can hear you guys fine. My internet is apparently doing just fine.
Yeah.
Is that the
That's why we've only been going on for like 5 minutes so far.
YouTube doesn't want the So yeah, we have. I'm just looking at my prehistoric archaeology book just to grab some things offhand. There's a couple of molds that have been discovered for these weaponry, so you mightn't always find the weaponry itself. But what you might do, like at a settlement site, is actually find the mold for them.
That's presumably a lot more rare and valuable as archaeology to find as well.
Yeah, and yeah. So
sorry,
like,
just slid off my chair by mistake.
A friend of mine actually done a a friend of mine made 2 replica or reproduction like Bronze Age halberds. So that would have been Irish arms.
Oh, nice.
And then other friends of mine at I think they're called Goat's Head. It's like a HEMA group from Wexford. They I get it right. Wexford. They did some HEMA style stick fighting, basically kind of, I think it was shillelagh style, like Irish stick fighting with these halberds to try and figure out how to use them. And yeah, so if you imagine like fighting with a shillelagh, I'm sure anyone can just Google shillelagh and
basically
get an idea of like a piercing.
Oh no, it sounds like a piercing weapon. Unless it's used as an anti-shield weapon, but at that point, then why would you need it to be sharp?
Well, that's what I was thinking. Is you can also probably clear shields, but
the other question I guess that would come in is: at what point in time does cavalry become a thing? Because that sounds like a fucking horrible weapon to use against a mounted rider, where you can do a downward swing with a pole arm. It's essentially just using a sword on the end of a stick so you can reach up and hit them higher up.
Also in front of me, I conveniently happen to have new research into that Skog.
Hey, that's
because I remember Lindy Beige did a video on it, but I can't remember the dates that were attached to that.
Well, I guess the technology of using horse probably would come in the maybe Neolithic, Bronze Age.
Because I know the Picts had them, but that's obviously quite a lot later because that's in the bit that I'm thinking of is the more Roman period.
But a lot of what you might be familiar with horses and stuff would be using the horses on saddles with stirrups and
it'd be more chariot horses in this time period, if at all.
Kinda. We do have suggestions from literature of chariots in Ireland, but I'd say these horses, if used, would probably be used bareback.
Oh, okay.
And horses, especially like cavalry in Ireland, primarily bareback.
It's saddlery is fucking difficult and expensive.
It's a thing actually referenced in Topographica Hibernia, which is the history of topography of Ireland by Gerald of Wells, which is published sometime 1150. So he suggests in that how the Irish, if that's the right reference, that is, the Irish fight bareback on horses. So if you're going to fight against them with cavalry, they don't have stirrups.
Yep, so you can knock them out of the saddle much easier.
You can literally just knock them off the horse really easily. Because there's nothing to hold on except like the mane of the horse itself.
Just imagine you're riding on your horse, you're riding at the other tribe, and then suddenly some dickhead with a big bronze polearm just punts you in the chest off the horse, and then he steals your horse.
I can imagine a Bronze Age Han just with a big stick, just knocking people off.
Oh yeah, backhand.
But yeah,
we are discussing Bronze Age Beaker Corbans.
Nice.
Yeah. There's a lot more research to be done on those, and but because there's it's only now we're starting to understand how to use them, and that's probably due to like the more recent popularity of HEMA and whatnot.
Yeah, and people going, I want to make cool shit to beat up my friends with.
Oh yeah. I'd be interested to do some sort of LARP in that period. At some point, just
I've
to
seen some
play
lovely bronze
wet
age
fucking field with a bunch of sticks.
Yeah. Speaking of which, I do have a LARP group at hand called Domini. I'm not sure, but I use their Gemini Chronicles. I think is the name of the group. They're a group from North Devon, I think.
Yeah.
And I had previously used their work in their images in a presentation I gave back in my undergrad, but I figured I'd give them a shout out because they do LARP in that kind of period, which I thought was a really interesting idea.
Oh, that's nice.
For like it's an interesting concept. But moving on from that, quick shout out. You asked a question about the horses, and there's what's date is on this. So this is volume what's XXVII. So that's volume 27. 27. So this is volume 27 of the Journal of 2019. So this is published last year. Well, technically it's published this year because the journal is a year behind, but that's neither here nor there. So this is the most recent version of the journal, and in it is actually an article by Brian G. Scott, which is titled "Some Notes on Irish Horse Riding in Later Irish Bronze Age," which will be in a period that we're discussing. It refers a lot to the Dowrus Horde, and if you're familiar with that particular find, you'll know what I'm talking about. For you, I'm not sure you'll be familiar with the Dowrus Horde, but a lot of the Dowrus Horde artifacts are things like, actually he has photos here of the woman riding bareback on a horse. I think it's that Mongolian woman. I don't see a name. I've read this article, but it's on my list of things to get to. What was I looking for? I was looking for the picture of. So the Dowrus Horde contains a number of rattles, and there's a bit in it. You know, like the horse bit. It goes in the horse's mouth.
Okay.
So you can put like reins over the horse, but yeah, it contains some things used for riding horses. But to describe what the rattles look like, they look like kind of grenade shapes, but they're on rings and they hang like from the horse. I think they're cold rattles, but they were cold rattles.
Extra intimidation.
Yeah, it's like, oh, look at this cool thing, or more noise, because as you'd imagine,
listen to this thunderous cavalry as it goes.
Yeah, and it makes even more noise with rattles. You'd imagine
that sounds
someone with
very
a large
obnoxious
horn behind them. It would, it would be rather intimidating.
I was going to say, because I'd imagine at that point, when you've got, essentially volunteer armies of people, that most people are going to be armed with long, sharpened sticks, so you need to make them break before your cavalry hits them, or your cavalry's not going to. Because that's the thing. It's generally quite hard to train a horse to intentionally try and kill itself, which is what charging a pike block is.
Yeah. So you mentioned something there that actually reminded me of something I forgot to have ready. Was you mentioned having people who were what was it you said?
Like volunteer armies.
Volunteering, yeah.
As opposed to conscription or, professional armies technically are volunteer armies, but...
So in like the Bronze Age, particularly like the early Bronze Age, I know so let's, for the moment, focus on like Europe specifically. So we have like chieftain societies in that time period forming Wessex, Denmark, and Munster. So they're like chiefdoms are kind of starting to form, if you know what I mean. So it would begin in the Neolithic, but then by this time in the Bronze Age, they're starting to come together. So chieftain type societies would allow things like Stonehenge to be constructed, where you get like the big man who has all his followers, and then his followers have
Irishman.
Well, in this context, Chad McWessexman, but yes, who essentially not necessarily forces, but if you help me do this, then you get something in return in the way of help or
sort
food.
Of beginnings of like warrior culture.
Exactly, that's what I'm getting at.
As opposed to the, just getting every able person to do the fighting, or in the later period just having I guess the warrior culture is the beginning of the professional soldiers. where instead of just having everybody available armed with whatever you can get, or the later bit where you have as many people as you need armed with the best stuff you can get.
Yeah.
Because there's all different kinds of that, and I'm rambling unnecessarily, so I'm going to stop.
No. Oh, it's fine. It adds to the content. So, when you pledge your, for instance, you pledge, well, before swords or a thing, when
Spear.
you pledge your
Pointy
spear
club.
or your sword or your club to your chief, he might in return give you a weapon because it benefits him to have you better armed. So he might grant you a sword or a axe or like a bronze
Armed
spear.
society
Yep.
Yeah.
is
So then you're
polite.
trading in your flint for, which is probably more common, for things like bronze. So having metal is probably better when everyone else is using stone tools. But
There's the other thing you can
Yeah,
do with that is shit. Forgot what I was going to say. Ignore me.
no worries. So coincidentally, just so I've said it on the stream because I forgot to mention it, I am drinking actually coffee today, and it is Kenyan coffee beans that I hand ground myself using a mortars and pestle. So, yeah, proper.
Something they would have used back in the day.
Yep.
Oh, yeah, that was the point. It was the thing of the essentially the chieftain will probably have the best weapons. And as he gets better and better weapons, his old weapons, especially with bronze stuff, is probably still pretty good.
Oh yeah,
So,
that too.
you can get
like,
stuff like, you can keep getting what is essentially like a lordly weapon because the lord has now a better one.
Yeah, he's traded up. So his old Lamborghini is now no longer useful for him. So he's like, here, you can have this Lamborghini because I got this brand new 2020. First one produced in the year 2020 Lamborghini. And
Right.
his old first one produced in 2019 is now, the person under him's.
It's
You know
not
what
an
I mean?
amazing analogy, but
Yeah.
it does definitely... That's the thing, though. It's the same kind of level, especially during the early Bronze Age, because if you've got enough bronze that you can make a sword out of it, you're a pretty big deal. If you've got enough bronze to make a spear, that's still pretty good. Oh, that was the other thing I was going to say, is during pretty much all of the time periods up to even sort of the kind of late medieval, pretty much every peasant would be fighting with a stick.
Oh yeah.
It would be probably a sharpened stick, but it would be a stick.
Yeah. A stick, and then the
Because-
next level up is a stick with a knife on it, which is basically what a spear is.
Yeah, because that's the thing where, if you find bronze weapons at all, that's generally a sign of, at least early on, some degree of wealth, because, hey, this chad over here's got weapons.
And that benefits you as well as an